Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Paranormal Karen. What a great 2021. I feel like the shows this year have been great. And today we are going to continue that because back is my friend Renee Watt. Renee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's always great to talk to you. I was just on your podcast a little while ago, the Glittercast, and it was so fun. And now I have been waiting for years to have on an astrologer. And I feel like, and you actually teach an astrology class. That was the last time I was talking to you. And you did a reading for me, and I freaking loved it. So amongst all your other talents, which are tarot and psychic, and don't you make spells? Don't you sell spells?
Yeah, I sell spell kits and crystal kits on my website, house cleansing kits. So I've got my finger in pretty much every witchy pot you can have it in.
You know what? At the end, I'm going to have a witchy question for you. Okay,
I would love that. Those are my favorite kind of questions. So.
Oh, good. Well, I bet it's one that you have never had, and it's such a weird question. But let's start with astrology, okay? Or maybe should we start with a weird question?
It's up to you. I'm okay with either.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a little bit of what has been going on because I think all my friends are witches. They're out of the closet witches like you. And they say, oops, we had a little wind or something. Never mind. I know.
A ghost. You just had a ghost come say what's up.
I think it is a ghost. I just had terrible car trouble. I think something is around me, but it even makes this question even weirder. So I have had real witches, because someone might consider me a witch, although I really feel like there's a discipline to it. There's a lot to it that I don't follow, so I wouldn't put myself in that category. And twice I have had witches come over and do spells with me, and they have gone completely kaflooey. I mean, like, they woke up stuff in my apartment. I got an attachment. Everything went wrong. And my friend said to me, I don't know why, but witchcraft is not good for you. And I have no idea. Do you think, this is my theory, I wonder if I was a bad witch at one point in a past life, and in this life it's just like, oh no, you are not going down that path again. Does it make any sense?
Oh, I mean, in a past life, I don't know about that, but I'm wondering I'm like trying to look at your chart. I printed up your chart and I'm looking at it.
Does it say no?
And I'm like, well, I think that it might be just needing the discipline, because your 12th house, which is sort of like the house of undoing and the house of the unseen and the subconscious and what can go wrong. Yours is ruled by Taurus, but you have a lot of Gemini energy here. And you have your North Node in Gemini. And when I see Gemini energy, I think that it's like you really need to take the study seriously. And you really need to know what you're doing. But also, I would be curious if Mercury was in retrograde during either of those spells. Because if it's only happened twice and you did it around sort of a finicky energy, so maybe Mercury retrograde or around an eclipse, things can go wonky then. And so maybe it has nothing to do with you, but the energy that you were working with in that moment.
Oh, well, I do believe the second time it happened, Mercury was in retrograde.
Okay.
Also, the two times it happened in the apartment I'm in, which I'm trying to move, which whenever people come over to my apartment, whenever psychics come over, they're always like, this is a little weird. And what's interesting is whatever is weird in here is very comfortable with me. And when somebody came over and taught me a spell, this place went crazy. I mean, crazy. And I couldn't sleep for 2 days and stuff was moving around. And it was almost like I offended what was in here. And then I just got up and I said, I'm looking for a new place. I have to move. And it went suddenly quiet. Like now I can sleep like a baby. Nobody's active. Like I think this stuff was like, no, you stay. We'll be quiet now. But it was very weird. And anyone that's uncomfortable in their own apartment knows how bad that can be. But, okay, so that's interesting. I don't know with the first one, but with the first one, we did a fairy spell. And I don't know that there was any protection or anything. Anyways, so that could be one. So when you're doing, so that's why knowing all this stuff is important. Like if you're going to be a witch, you got to really do some research, right?
Yeah. And I'm looking at, as you're saying, all this stuff has happened in your house. I'm looking at your chart and you've got 2 pretty major planets in your 4th house, and the 4th house rules the home. And one of them is Uranus, which is a wild card. And so anything can happen. It likes to shake things up. And it's right next to Pluto, which is the link to the underworld and the link to kind of like, maybe like,
So I've got the wild card and the underworld in my apartment. And you know what's weird is that always, because I have to tell you, I was before this place, I was in a guest house, and this was before I really was studying my paranormal stuff, and stuff would scratch on the ceiling and it would scratch on the floor, and voices would come over the radio, the same voice over 2 different stations. Like that place to me was horrible. The landlord was like, we were pulling cannon shot out of the ground, like something bad happened there. And then this place is the same. So is that always going to be, am I always going to find the portal to the underworld in my homes?
Yep, you will, because it's your 4th house and it's your home is just wherever you are. And you also have an opposition between Pluto, which is the underworld, and Saturn, which is boundaries. So basically those planets are kind of always fighting with each other in your chart. So the dead don't respect your boundaries is what I'm seeing.
Well, and it's just the dead. Is it dead humans, or it seems like it's everyone?
Yeah. I mean, when I look at Pluto, it does usually have to do with death, but yeah, I agree with everyone. Okay. I get your joke now. Yep.
Well, I was thinking too, this is Fae. This is, spirits, this is other elementals. I think everybody's just like, let's run her over. See, now already I want to say how happy I am to have you to talk astrology, because I would have never gone at it at this angle, and I've already learned something. So I got to work on my spiritual boundaries, because I want I think I know where I want to move, and now I'm thinking I could be doing the same thing. How fascinating. All right. So 4th house, all right, 4th house going to be open. Okay, then that was a great answer. Let's get started. So tell me about your journey into astrology. And now I'm assuming most of my listeners are pretty astrologically advanced, but I know a lot of people that are like, they really think astrology is that little clip in the newspaper, and it's not.
Oh my gosh, it is so not. It's, the little clip in the newspaper might resonate one day and not resonate another day. And to be honest, a lot of people don't resonate with their sun signs. And it could be that they have something in their chart that's aspecting their sun that pulls the energy in another direction. I mean, when we're looking at natal charts, that's where the meat comes from. That's where I go from saying like, oh yeah, Karen, she's a Leo, to, oh yeah, but she's got spiritual brown, she's the dead don't respect her. Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. And, when it comes to my introduction to astrology, I began reading tarot when I was 10. So, and I started practicing witchcraft when I was 12. And, that I've always been drawn to those sort of worlds. And I was picking up my spiritual practice after a divorce and, going through, some addiction stuff that I got rid of with the divorce. And I needed to, have something to grab onto. And I immediately went to witchcraft. I immediately went back to tarot. I had a psychic awakening. And I also wanted to begin creating content. And a podcast was the plan. And so I decided that I was going to start my first podcast, which I'm not doing now. I've sort of rebranded. But my first podcast was called Witch Doctorate. And the concept was I was going to take a new witchy topic every season, which I called semesters. And I was going to learn it and explain what I was learning as I was learning it so that people could follow along. And astrology seemed like a natural choice because I wanted to learn it, but I knew I would never, ever learn it unless I had something to hold me accountable, like needing to release an episode, like needing to get the podcast out there. And I also noticed that when I was trying to learn astrology, it was really hard to follow what other astrologers were learning, which is something I try to keep in mind as an astrologer today. You know, that when someone says, you know, you have Mercury conjunct your sun in your third house, that doesn't mean anything unless you really break it down. Mercury is the planet of communication, and a conjunction means it's right next to your sun. So those planets amp each other up. So you speak from, you know, from a place that, you know, it feeds your ego when you say things that are smart. Like that's kind of what you could pull from that information. And so I wanted to be able to break down the information in a way that seemed really digestible. And I'm always trying to remember how convoluted and how overwhelming astrological data felt when I started out. And so I try to bring that to my readings and to my classes because it's so much.
It is. And there's, you know, it's like even once in a while, I will peek at my birth chart or I will find where something is or, you know, I just take a look. And then there's one I like, there's an app I follow that I like. But like the other day, I had to look up trine, square, and conjunct and all those. And there is so much beside just the basics before you even get to interpreting and intuitively putting something to come to a conclusion. You know, do you think this is back a sec because you started to get into this when you were getting a divorce and all this stuff was going on? I think a lot of times what I call a spiritual upgrade, when your abilities get better, it comes after a hard time.
I totally agree with that. And, you know, I mean, I already threw it out there once. Like I had a serious heroin addiction. And I think, you know, I have theories that I absorbed my husband's addiction because as soon as he left, I quit and I never once relapsed and I didn't go to NA and I didn't go to rehab. I just feel like, oh, you absorbed an addiction because you're an extremely empathic person and you didn't know how to protect yourself.
And nobody's more connected than your husband in every way.
Exactly. All those chords. And I obviously, you know, I take full responsibility for all of my actions and all of my choices. But once I, you know, re-tapped into my abilities and spiritual concepts, I realized that, you know, I was absorbing an addiction, but also probably running from things that I was feeling that didn't necessarily belong to me. And so when I got rid of what was blocking me, it all opened up. And I mean, that really is what happened. I had a psychic awakening and I had vivid prophetic dreams almost every night to the point where, you know, I was emotionally and viscerally involved in the dreams. So it was a lot.
Wow. And then you come, this just happened to me. I just got an upgrade and it came out of some rough stuff, but I guess that's where the lessons come from.
Yeah. And I almost wonder if it's like a reward too. Like when you get over some rough stuff, it's like, oh, okay. Like you're seeing the lessons. So now we're going to, you know, you've sort of heightened yourself or whatever that looks like and whatever that means.
Yeah. People, I think when you go to therapy too, I think it's all uncovering layers to get to that authentic self because therapy does that to me too. Therapy gives me an upgrade. So it's probably when you get by layer of authentic self, you get to your real power.
I totally agree with that. That's why I love looking at, you know, if we're looking at witchy concepts and stuff, I love the idea of shadow work and diving into your subconscious and looking at your patterns and acknowledging them and looking at your relationships and what you attract and what your role in that relationship was and what your toxic behaviors are, because everyone has some form of toxicity. You're not like anyone who says like they don't have any toxic traits is just totally disconnected.
That's a scary person. That's a scary, or the all good sort of crowd is not, I don't connect. I like people that show their warts right there.
Totally.
Yeah. I would rather.
Yeah. I think when we look at people who focus solely on ascension or like consciousness, the subconscious is just as important as the consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not looking at your subconscious, you're not truly self-aware. And there have been moments in my life where I was not self-aware because I wasn't looking at my subconscious and I wasn't looking at my shadow. And I think that's why those people seem so hard to relate to. And that's why they seem so disconnected. It's because also I think that like it's super passive to be high vibes only. It totally like lacks accountability of self. Yeah. And it also can, breed lack of accountability with others. If someone screws you over, but you just want to rise above everything, you're just going to get screwed over nonstop. So it's like, you got to have the shadow and the light, I think.
I think that's the part that people don't get. It's like, first of all, the work is never done. But what's even more interesting is I just had a case where literally this person had an emotional breakdown and they were very sensitive. And all of a sudden they were sure there was something in their apartment, and it ended up being a poltergeist. It was his own energy. Poltergeist is what we believe is it's his own energy ricocheting off. So he had that break, and then all of a sudden all this psychic ability comes out, and then crap is moving around his apartment, and he thinks something's haunting him. And when we got him off, this realization, and I was interviewing him, and he was telling me all the stories and all the stuff that happened and what lines up and what doesn't. And I'm hearing him. And then right at the end, he goes, I think I know where this happened. And I said, why? And he said, I'm not living the life I'm supposed to. And I was like, boom, that's it.
Wow. That was probably a good feeling for you too. Like,
yes.
To help facilitate that. Yeah, I think that would probably be a good feeling. I think that's why we do what we do, to help facilitate these realizations in people.
Yeah. And I always have the 50% rule, which is someone may have a horrible husband. They might want a reading and the husband's horrible, but what was their 50%? Was it taking it? Was it not leaving earlier? Was it, there's always a 50-50, I say.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. You have to finesse that 50-50 rule, because I've seen that too. And sometimes it has to look at like, if someone's really dissatisfied, it's like, well, what are your expectations like? And when someone makes a little bit of a change to try and go in the direction you want them to, are you crediting them or are you wanting the whole thing at once? It's like,
yeah.
we have to, be patient. It's, you gotta figure out how to break the other 50% in a way that they can be receptive to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sometimes it literally can be, especially if someone's in an abusive relationship, it can always come down to, are you working on your self-esteem? Because that's what kicked it. You know what I mean? Which isn't to blame,
totally.
But I know, and we haven't even got to astrology, but this is my desperate thing right now is, if you want change, change. And I'm trying to do that with myself, because I see my friends repeating and I could tear my hair out. And then I'm like, well, then that must mean you're doing it. So if you want to change, change. And I think that's the lesson. But thank you for that answer. My God, we're already at the first break. Thank you for that answer on the witchcraft. That makes perfect sense to me. All right. Yeah. So they're just going to be here. Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't do witchcraft at your house either, because if your house is a natural portal or a natural place where the woo stuff can come through, I would do spells outside of your house, and then it might be different.
Okay. And you know what? Let's take a break, and I want to ask you one more question about that. So hang on, folks. We'll be right back with Renee from the Glittercast. Hang on. Hey, everybody, just a couple of announcements. First of all, April 5th, I will not be doing a Facebook Live with Tommy. We will be doing it as a podcast later. Sorry about that. Timing just isn't working out. But April 5th, you can purchase my tarot class half off. I'm having a flash sale April 5th only. You want to use the coupon code, all one word, all capital letters, flash sale. How creative was that for me to come up with that coupon code for my flash sale? All day April 5th and only April 5th. Also, folks, if you want some laughs, you can check out my CD, Psychic Stand-Up Valentine's Edition. You can get it on my website for $5. It's me reading tarot for a comedy crowd. It's funny and interesting and different. And if you don't have any money, go find it on YouTube and go watch it for free. I just want you all to laugh. Also, if you're looking to sharpen your intuition or some really great classes, I'm back in touch with my friend Derek at mysticalwares.net. He is putting up some free classes for the Mystical Wares website. So we got something for everybody. We got a flash sale, we got a comedy CD, and we got all kinds of classes. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the podcast. Okay, so we're back. So that's interesting. So I will always... how can you tell? I know the place I used to live at, everybody said there was a portal out in the yard. If my house is some sort of if whatever goes with me carries, what would we call it?
I'm not sure. Like if it follows you, an attachment maybe, but it doesn't seem like an attachment.
Like, do I find places that have holes that stuff pops into, or are those places finding me?
You know what? You might be drawn to it. I couldn't say for sure though. One thing that I think could be the case in your chart is you also have Venus in your 4th house, so you might just move into places because because you like the way that it feels, or at least you like the way that it seems like it's going to be. But then you have this sort of portals that open up. So I don't know. I almost feel like it might be something that's unique to you because this is like an energy signature for you. Mm-hmm. But I do think that if you did strong warding and like a house cleansing when you very first move into a place, and if you put, selenite and black tourmaline in every corner and sprinkled brick dust across your doorways and just stayed on top of, locking down your space, I think it would be okay.
Yeah. And I think I will do that in the next place. And I use a lot of dragon's blood over here, but it's very interesting because the apartment across from me, always the same person moves in, and it's always a young girl in like her 30s or late 30s. Very sensitive, and whatever is in that apartment drives them out. It pulls them in and drives them out. And I'll never forget, I was talking to the girl that used to live there, and I said, they're showing the apartment yet, but nobody's taking it. And she said, yeah, the apartment hasn't chosen yet. And I thought, she's right. I do know my last place was definitely different energy than this place. So, yeah, but that sounds great. All right. See, okay. All about me, folks. I wouldn't mean to do that, but Renee is so interesting and smart. Okay, so now we're gonna. Lastly, I want to hear your predictions. We're gonna go predictions on the third part. Tell people. So when people take your astrology class, first of all, it has to be long. How long is your class?
Right. I mean, right now it's just sort of it started, and I've just been kind of going with it, teaching classes. I think we might be on the 9th or 10th class, but I've lost count because it's just sort of. I'm not the one running it. I've been hired to teach for this it's called Haunted Diary Paranormal School. Oh. And it's actually this really cool group of, paranormal enthusiasts, but they're starting a streaming service called Paraflix as well. So it's this little hub of, people involved in the paranormal witchy community. And so I just sort of am given dates that I'm supposed to teach on. But it started with the planets and the archetypes of the planets and the energy of the planets, and then what planets do, though, like, you know, what signs do those planets rule, and just sort of even like the anatomy of the natural astrology wheel. So the thing about astrology is there's no end date, listed, because it's not necessarily a series. It's just an ongoing class. And I literally could tap into this until I die. There's so much you can play with.
I agree. I found online a Vedic astrology class, and 2 hours into it, and we're barely. It's so there is so much. People spend years doing this.
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean don't start, folks. It means it's a perfect time to start now.
Yes, exactly. And have patience with yourself. If you're going to begin learning, I feel like just have patience with yourself and don't feel like you're going to really grasp it for a year.
That's funny. That's true. But you got to keep moving on it. And then all of a sudden it'll be there.
Yeah. And it took me, I would say, 2.5 years of studying before I offered it professionally, because I just wanted to make sure I really knew what I was doing. So it takes a lot of studying. It takes a lot of effort. But, you know, learning astrology was one of the best things that I ever did for my career, because now I have 2 horoscope columns now. So, and I got them on the same day. So in one day, I doubled my monthly income by getting these 2 columns, and it just opened up so much for me. So work does pay off. You just have to put in the effort first. And of course, you know, that's not what I had in mind. I just wanted to learn it. And then, you know, I think your efforts get rewarded in mysterious ways later anyway.
Yes. And you know what else? I want to hear about your column, but also I find astrology to be probably the most accurate for dates and times.
Yes, it is. It is. Totally. Because I think when we're looking at the psychic realm, whenever someone wants a time frame, I'm so hesitant to give one, because I don't think that time works the same way where I'm getting the info from. So
I always say people go through their karma differently. So if you go through your karma faster, you're going to move this forward. If you're looking to meet someone, you both have to go through your karma at the right time. But that's right. It's like spirits. Time is not the same over there.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think you're right too. It really is about working the karma, because people will ask me, when am I going to meet someone? And I'm like, well, you got to take care of all this stuff first. You might find a relationship, but it's not going to be the right one. So just focus on yourself for now.
I know people hate that answer, and it's so common. And I know people that get mad and they're like, Karen, I've done the work. And I'm like, the work is never done.
Nope.
Because then when you get married or you meet this person, you got a whole new set of work, and then they got to do their work. I don't know.
Yeah. And sometimes the work is just maintaining your individual self within a partnership.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know what? This is why I hate movies. I think this is why I don't watch romantic movies. I think they give everyone the wrong impression.
I agree with that so much.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe these are my excuses. Maybe this is my shadow side making excuses too. So when someone goes to an astrologer, like if I was to say to you, I'm going to have an operation, would you be able to say, and I said to you, well, would April or May be better? Would you be able to give me an assessment that way?
Yeah, I definitely would. If I was going to do something like that, I would look at your 6th house, which rules health. But, depending on what type of surgery it was, there are different signs that rule different parts of the body. Like Capricorn is the bones, Scorpio is the reproductive organs. And so I would, based off of what the procedure was, I would look at what those energies are doing and what the transits look like to give a sort of more auspicious date. I've actually heard of astrologers planning when a C-section would happen. Wow. Based off of the best birth chart it would produce.
Wow, that's really interesting. I know that she was more of a tarot reader, but she always said to me, check out the astrology, especially if you're doing plastic surgery. She said that's the one you want to check out, the astrology, which would be, what is it? Aries is the face? I forget that these each have body parts.
Yeah. I mean, if it's also if it's plastic surgery stuff, I would also look at Taurus and Libra because they're ruled by Venus, which is aesthetics. So that's definitely where I'd put my eye as well.
Interesting. All right. So when people see, like, this is I think I've told you this before, but this is a very interesting thing is and I know it's not always, the degrees make it different, but I am Leo with Gemini rising. Donald Trump is Gemini with Leo rising. Exactly the same as this strange lady that's Marianne Green. She's the lady that doesn't like trans people, and she's a Trumper, and she's a QAnon. And I was like, They are they my opposite? Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It could be. I think that, when we're looking at, I actually have Donald Trump chart in front of me.
Yeah. Excellent. We'll get to that. We'll get to the predictions early.
I pulled his chart, but yeah, I mean, I look at his Mars is in Leo, and Mars is sort of like what gives us will and what gives us sort of like the get up and go and passion. And his is in Leo, but it's in his 12th house. So with it being in Leo, he's motivated by his ego. Everything that he does is ego motivated. Right. But with the 12th house being the house of undoing, it's kind of how he screws himself in a lot of ways too. So, he's got interesting stuff going on in his chart too, where his sun and Uranus, which is the wild card, are conjunct. So they're in just a few degrees of each other. And so he is sort of like this unpredictable sort of force.
Probably to himself. I know that sounds weird, but I think he's unpredictable to himself. I don't think he knows how he's going to feel about something until it happens.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. 100%.
So
and I don't know that he has a lot of accountability either.
Right. I think he has zero. I don't know what the plan of accountability is, but it must have been void on that day. See me throwing around astrology terms like I know what they mean when I don't.
I like that. I was like, well, yeah. I could. So the void moon, is that what you're kind of referring to?
Is that what is a void? When it's a void, it means it's almost. You tell what is when your planet is void.
Okay, so there's a thing called like a void of course moon, and basically what it is it's when the moon has made the last aspect that it will make before switching signs, and so it's just kind of drifting. It's done doing the work that it's going to do. Say if the moon was in Scorpio, about to move into Sagittarius, and it made its last aspect in Scorpio, it just kind of drifts until it makes its first, it either switches into Sagittarius or makes its first aspect in Sagittarius. And the idea of the sort of astrological folklore around a void of course moon is that the moon isn't working, so you shouldn't be working. And any projects that you try to get off of the ground when the moon is void of course will not manifest. Nothing will become of it because the moon is just kind of like done with us and just waiting for the next job to come through. However, if the moon is in Taurus, Sagittarius, I can't remember the other ones. I think Pisces, and I think there's one more. It doesn't count because the moon likes being in all of those places.
Oh, so the moon has favorites. That's interesting.
Yes. So Taurus is the moon's favorite.
Wow. Okay. So now when I go to, I think the app I like is called, hang on, let me look. There's an app that I find very interesting, and it is called Astro Future. Okay. And it just kind of throws out your chart. And then like it says something like right now it says the cardinal quality is very weak. So we know that cardinal, so fixed is it's where it is. It's not moving. It's stuck. I'm a Leo. I am fixed and fire. Cardinal is, what is cardinal? Possible moves?
Yeah, so cardinal is the initiator. So every cardinal sign, the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And it basically is the sign that kicks off a season. So Aries kicks off spring. We have Cancer that kicks off summer. Libra kicks off fall. And Capricorn kicks off winter. So these are all the initiators of the zodiac. So it's sort of like where you get the get up and go.
So if my cardinal quality is not good, my get up and go is not good if it's weak.
Yeah, it might be hard to find your initiation. It might be hard to get moving.
Oh, I've had that for so long. And then mutable is very bendable, possible.
Yes.
Flexibility. Okay.
Very go with the flow, very adaptable, very much easier.
Okay.
That's why, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so on a cardinal, if it said your cardinal is strong, that would be a day to start things.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. Yep.
This is great. I think I would take your class. Okay.
Yes, I would love that.
So then tell us the difference. And everybody, I would tell you to get this. It's just a very, very thorough app that I very much like. And I actually did look at my birth chart the other day, and it said, where is all this stuff? It said, I was proud of this, and it probably means nothing, but that's how I'm a Leo with a big ego. So I find pride in things that are very strange, which is, I had 5 masculine, 5 feminine, 2 cardinal, 3 fixed, and fire and earth. So if I don't know what this is saying. It was on my birth chart. It said aspects, I guess. So that's why I'm pretty middle of the road with my male female stuff, right? Because 5 planets each makes sense. Am I?
Yeah,
okay.
No, that makes total sense. Yeah, and fire and air signs are going to be masculine, while water and earth signs are going to be feminine. And you do. I'm looking at your chart here. You've got a nice balance there as far as those are concerned.
I didn't know earth was feminine. That's so interesting. I would have thought air and water.
Yeah, no, it's earth. It's earth. Probably because, I don't know, it's that nice grounding sort of. And we look at Mother Earth too. And so I think that might have a little bit of it too.
Okay. And there's so much here, but we're almost to the break, and I had asked you to do some predictions to help us for what's coming up. So why don't we take a break right now and finish that on the other end? I'm so excited. Okay.
Psychic teas, spelled with a Z, are scrumptious herbal combinations with antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties. Without sugar or caffeine, psychic teas won't mess with any medications and are designed by a naturopathic doctor. Many testify to positive results. Detox chakras and psychic tea blends enable bodily functions with superior efficacy, while more love and champagne blends support awareness of subtle joy and bliss. The CBD's teas are magical with myriad healing effects. There are 20 servings per package. A little dab'll do ya, and you can drink it hot or cold. Psychic teas taste so good. Replace coffee, use as a bedtime ritual, or even flavor a meal or dessert. The people behind the product are righteous and kind. Psychic teas will blow your mind. Totally worth the investment. Psychic Teas with a Z.com.
All right, folks, we're back. I was just telling Renee I'm going to check out her class, and I like this Haunted Diary Paranormal School. I might as well learn mediumship if they're going to start opening portals in my home. I might as well learn that and learn to protect. So, all right. So, can you tell us anything that is coming up? Is there something I heard like a weird, and also you have to make sure and tell me so I can put up people where your horoscope columns are, because that sounds like that could help people week to week, right?
So if they want, I have a bunch of astrology content floating around the internet. So every time the sun changes signs, I do a monthly sort of taroscope astrology of the month on my website or on my podcast, the Glittercast. And then for daily astrological transits, where I just mark down like this is what the energy is. It's not specific to a sign. It's more collective energy. I do a daily report on that. And then I have monthly horoscopes on shondaland.com. They are being released in March. So I don't have anything until March begins, and then I'll be there every month.
Oh, and this goes out after March, so you're already there. We went into the future.
So I'm here. Yeah, we're in the future. Perfect. And then for horoscopes.com, I do a pretty thorough breakdown of each month by sign, but you do have to, I believe, be a premium member to have access to it.
Okay, got it. Okay, so but we can find all those from your website, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Great. Okay. So do we have I'm just going to give you my feeling about 2021. I felt like 2020 was not good, but we were so excited to reach 2021. And then when we got to 2021 and things didn't really change, they kind of got worse. I feel like we just came out of a very dark period, and it's February. I think it's the end of February right now when I'm talking to you. So hopefully things are getting better or what's coming up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that sort of refreshed feeling that we're looking for will probably come more like around March 20th is when Aries season starts. And that's the zodiac new year. That's when the sun starts a new cycle. So in astrological terms, it's still 2020, you know?
Oh, that makes sense.
Because we're in Pisces season right now. So we're just going through the last sign of the year. And Pisces season is kind of everything. You know, Pisces season is just sort of like we're trying to release and sort through everything that we've accumulated on the journey so far, which is why that, you know, Pisces season tends to make people feel tired, especially because Pisces is ruled by Neptune, which is the planet that rules sleep.
That's
so people feel, oh, really?
So they could be an energy vampire too, probably a Pisces, right?
Sometimes, yeah. And I mean, Pisces energy, Neptune being one of the rulers of Pisces, it's where illusion comes from. It's where delusion comes from. Fantasy as well. But it's a very disconnected energy. So if in Pisces season you feel drowsy or disconnected or floaty or not present, it's just sort of like, I think it's when we're tired of all of the journey that we've been on so far and we're just beginning to check out a little bit.
Oh, that makes so much sense. You know, most serial killers are Pisces.
That makes so much sense.
My mother turns out is a serial killer. I didn't know.
Yeah, it turns just until you looked into astrology, and then you were like, oh, okay. Now I know where she was.
Exactly. Okay, so we got to get out of Pisces. That makes me feel better. All right, and
yeah,
okay.
It's going to be nice because, you know, we're looking at the sun. Like whenever the moon moves into Aries, we get an emotional reset. But when the sun moves into Aries, because it only happens once a year, you know, our energy levels get a reset, and our egos get a reset. So we're given permission to put ourselves first, to feel good about ourselves, to reconnect with our wants and our needs. And we also have Venus coming into Aries the day after. So on March 21st, Venus enters Aries. And so we're going to feel like we're kind of like taking more initiative towards our self-care and our own emotional fulfillment. And because I think that when we're in Pisces season and where we're at right now, we really, really tap into the collective. And so it can be really hard to shake off what the world is going through. And that it's like a flip switching. So I think that in terms of like coming out of that darkness, Aries season will kick off a lot of that, but it's not the best astrological year.
Well, you know, everybody on my New Year's podcast, a prediction podcast, pointed to April, that there's trouble in April.
So I pulled the chart for April. I kind of just went through all the different days because you'd mentioned April to me when we were talking about this, and I think that the full moon in Scorpio on the 26th could get a little bit weird. We've got 4 planets in Taurus, and then we've got this opposition to the moon in Scorpio, which it's like Scorpio's kind of cutthroat. It really wants things to change. But then we have Saturn, which is our structures and authority, kind of starting shit with the whole thing. And so I feel like when we're looking at political upset or collective upset, it could be around that full moon.
See, and I feel like, and I don't know if this falls in the same category, but I think after this election, everyone went to sleep and they're not pushing, and then QAnon's not done. I know QAnon's not done. And I think we got, I feel like we've already started a war almost. It's all, I don't know why it was supposed to be all, shall I say, rainbow glitter when Biden came in, but it's not. And it's getting hairy. And I keep saying this. I feel like we should have January should have been a giant popping of anger. I felt like we had such a bunch of anger and it should have exploded and it didn't. And now it's been smeared all over and pushed around. I don't know. I
mean, I think it did in some way because the storming the Capitol, I mean, that was a huge popping of anger just on the, on the right. Mm-hmm. But I think that so here's why I don't like the astrology that much of 2021. And it's because we have Saturn. I've talked about Saturn a lot, which is our structures. It's authority. It's the government. It's, kind of like the boss. It's police in some ways. And then we have Uranus, which I talked about earlier, is the wild card. It also wants us to evolve. And throughout the year, Saturn and Uranus are kind of just blocking each other. And so Uranus wants us to evolve, wants things to change. And Saturn's like, nope, trying to repress it. And if we look at what's happening right now, I think you're right. People did kind of fall asleep after the election. But if you look at all of these states, all the states right now rolling out legislature that could oppress our votes, that could make, that are trying to make it harder for mail-in ballots, that are trying to make it so that you can't use a student ID and are trying to make it harder for people to vote. And now we're talking, now we're hearing whispers that Trump might run again in, 2024. I don't like it. I don't like any of that. No. And I think we might start to hear, Trump's been kind of quiet, kind of licking his wounds. But I think that we're probably going to start hearing from him. I wrote down the date and I'm trying to find it on my notes. When Mars enters Leo, because that's where his Mars placement is. And that's going to be, let me see. And Mars, that's going to be like in June.
Okay. And Mars is the war planet, isn't it?
It's the war planet. Yeah. It's the action planet. It's aggression. It's all of those things. And it's where we get motivation from. It's where our survival instincts kick in. And I think that he's going to, his Mars is going to be activated. And so I worry that he's going to be, marching out again in June and making his moves. But I really, with this square happening between Saturn and Uranus, this is where I think voter oppression is coming from. And this is happening 3 times throughout the year. But the energy is so slow moving. It's not like the aspect happens on one day. It's really stretched out. And that's my biggest concern, is because we know that we need change. We know that we need to follow our evolution. We know that we need to be innovative, not just politically, but in our healthcare system. Mm-hmm. And, just so much has come to light about how the system is flawed. And we are so divided. Half the country is really trying to push for change, and the other half of the country is not wanting it to happen,
Yeah.
And so that resistance is a problem.
Yeah. And also, it'll be interesting where you saw his Mars is like, it almost sounds like, is he going to declare war on the United States? And I think I'm more nervous with him quiet, although this, like I said, this will be after March, so he might be out louder. But that's really fascinating. So this year is going to hold a lot of tension.
Oh yeah. Tons of tension. We'll have, a little bit of a break, I think, in the fall, but then again, like towards the end of December, we're going to be feeling it again because, Saturn just is now leaving its first square with Uranus, which, we've kind of been dealing with that for weeks, and it's starting to move away from that energy, but then Saturn's going to go retrograde. And so it's going to pass over Uranus again, and then it's going to go direct, and it's going to square it's just like nonstop. We're just getting hit with this, this unfortunate astrological, aspect 3 times, but it's a really long lasting aspect. The buildup of the energy lasts for a long time. So it's a lot of start and stop. It's a lot of us wanting to push to evolve to make the society better and having it being met with resistance, which, we're seeing that with minimum wage as well. Biden wants things to go up to $15 an hour and it's getting blocked.
Yeah. I hope everybody, I don't know why, but I find the news is now giving me a stomach ache, and I don't know what that's about. I don't want to, I want you to talk, not me, but I just am, I don't know. It doesn't feel right. And it doesn't feel right in a different way, because almost when we had the monster that we could yell at, when we had Donald Trump that we could yell at, it seemed like we had a cause. But now everybody's like, well, Biden's in. And then it's like, but 41 million people lost their health care or whatever. So I don't know what the number was, but there was an enormous amount of people that have lost their health care. So where, it's this mixed message, but I guess we need the package to look like the devil to, I don't know. I think I agree. We have a rough year there. So, oh goodness. Okay. Tell us more so we can get our canned goods.
I think that, another thing that everyone sort of worries about is Mercury retrograde.
Yes.
And
yes.
We have 3, this year. We've already cleared one of them, luckily, but we've got another one coming up in May, and then we'll have another one coming up in September. And so that's always a point of time that's difficult for people, except for you and me, Karen, because we both have Mercury retrograde in our charts. Oh. So it's nice. Mercury retrograde won't hit you as hard if you were born under Mercury retrograde.
I was born under Mercury. That is so like me.
Yeah, if you look at your chart and there's any planet with like a little R next to it on the bottom, it means that planet was in retrograde when you were born.
Oh, so I made that easier on myself. Now, here's a hard question. Do you think Biden is going to make it?
Oh, man. I haven't even pulled the charts for that. I'm just like, I think I've been so relieved that Trump is out, but I didn't want to look for anything that would make me feel worried.
Right.
So I don't know. And I also, sometimes I have a hard time looking for bad things.
You want to just look subjectively.
Right. And exactly. I just want to see what kind of comes up and comes through. Exactly. So I'm not only looking for good things, but I haven't, with the intention of do I think he'll make it. I haven't looked at his chart and I haven't tried tapping into that. Every time he makes a speech though, I feel like I'm having a minor panic attack that he's going to get shot. But I felt. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I was agreeing. I always feel funny when, I don't know, the news seems funny to me now. Not funny, haha, but like something happened. I don't know. Maybe people listening know and they can send in something, but something happened and I can't put my finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I interrupted you there. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, and I think just another thing that's going to be frustrating about this year is, the distribution of the vaccine has been difficult, and seniors have been having a hard time even getting appointments. And then we've had people who have been cutting in line or whatever, and it's just kind of a really big mess. But I think that we're going to get enough vaccines. I think that's going to probably get nailed down. I think our next problem is going to be one out of every 3 Americans recently said that they wouldn't take the vaccine. And so that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, here's this is my other question too, because I may be one of the 1/3. I'm not positive yet, but I'm barely positive. Everybody has to have it. If 2/3 of the people have it, we're not covered?
From what I understand, it needs to be the majority of people. Because, I mean, even if you look at kids that want to go to school, they all have to get polio vaccines. I think it's polio, or maybe they don't even do polio anymore because we eradicated it. But there are a specific set of vaccines that kids have to take, and that's why the disease doesn't exist anymore. And I don't remember the actual percentage of how many people would have to get the vaccine, but I think it was in the 90s. Like we had to be within 90-something percent. So I mean,
I still also do believe, and it's very weird because I always go to Robert Kennedy on this stuff, because Robert Kennedy was the guy that got mercury removed from the vaccines. He's not anti-vax. He was the one that went to court and said, hey, they're putting crap in this, and he won. And now when you get vaccinated in this country, that can't be in there. But they immediately also Congress or somebody passed a bill that said you can't sue anyone for the vaccine. Now, this mercury is in the vaccines that Bill Gates is providing for other countries, and they're having a hard time. A lot of people are dying from it, but no one wants to tell you that. But I think there's going to be a different method to eradicate this, and it may have to do with light therapy. I know I'm way out now, but that's what I'm hoping. But I think that's an authoritarian thing too. That whether you think it is good or not, I think that they want us all vaccinated for nefarious reasons as well. But that's my conspiracy.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I do worry about that on some level, but I also,
you're on the other side. You can be there.
Well, yeah. And the thing is, okay, so I know that there are issues within the medical community. I know that there's corruption, and I don't trust the first doctor that tells me something, but I also don't think that there's anything real weird being done to them. What I'm worried about is not a nefarious agenda. Honestly, if I'm going to express my worry about the vaccine, it's about not really knowing what the long-term effects are and having it be something that was created so quickly. So, I mean, I do have concerns, but I also want to hug and kiss my family, and I don't want to waste my youth behind a mask.
Yeah, that I wonder if I'm going to move to New Zealand. I'm going to get checked and move to New Zealand.
Yeah, I know.
Beat it.
If we had the right kind of leadership, where they just were on top of it. They shut it down. They shut it down for the amount of time that they needed to shut it down for, and it was done.
Well, you know what else they did? They paid everybody 87% of what they usually make. Stay home. We're the government. We're going to give you what you usually make anyways, and we're going to give you health care. So everyone stayed home. But this country, we just ruined people. People are ruined. Business, I don't know. But we're way off of astrology. But I know. Yeah. But you know what? It was a leadership issue, 100%. I think there was a comic that said it best, that said all you had to do was stay home for 2 weeks and we couldn't do it. I think he was right.
Yeah, it's true. It's so very true. I know. And I think everyone has to make their own choice with their body and what they do. But, a lot of people are looking at this vaccine as a solution and having it come to an end. But no matter what side of the fence you're on, I don't think it's the saving grace that we perceive it to be, because so many of us have to get it. And no matter where you stand, getting it or not, that's going to hold it up either way.
Yeah. And it falls on many different levels of strangeness of, honestly, the no mask people will forever baffle me a little bit, because that seemed easy, but then they saw it as their rights being taken away. So, and then it is a slippery. I don't know. Now I'm just saying, I don't know. That's basically, I'm taking a lot of words to say, I don't know. It seemed easy, and thank God I have a job where I stay home. But I am surprised, and I will put this out there. First responders have not sent me emails. Only one gave me a really bad review on iTunes because I can't remember what she thought I said. I can't remember, but she thought I said something, well, and maybe I did, pro-Biden and anti-Trump, but she was saying for the frontline workers who, God, yes, we need to do whatever we can for them. She thought I was against them. But if any of you are out there and you work on the front line and you want to send me an email about, I would read a whole episode on what your thoughts are. I would make it even. So anyway, anybody wants to send that. But we're talking about Renee, and we're almost ready to wrap up. Do you have any advice for us for this coming year?
Meditate.
I know.
That's always my advice across the board. Anyway, I mean, just patience, and I think we're going to start crawling out of this, but it's not going to be as fast as we want it to be. I think that we're coming up on a year. By the time this airs, it'll probably be a year since the pandemic was sort of declared, and I think we all had it in our head that, like, okay, this is just going to be a year. And it might be closer to 2 years, 2.5 years before we're without masks and sharing spaces and eating inside without social distancing.
Right.
So,
yeah.
and be patient.
It is interesting, because the interesting thing is New Zealand shut down the virus and they still want vaccines. So I don't know. Here's what let's just hope for this year that they bring us the news about the aliens. That's what I say. That'll be a nice distraction.
Oh my gosh, wasn't there some sort of a loophole or something that was written into something that was released where I think it was like in the stimulus package, there was some sort of underlining article in it that information about UFOs had to be declassified. And I think that's happening in the summer, actually.
Yes, that is funny, because I actually submitted to write for a political cartoon, and that was the topic I chose, was that, and you know who it was? It was Marco Rubio of Florida. That was his part of the bill, of all people, Florida, wanting to know that. But I think you're right. And I think it's actually, it may even be out before this podcast, but, yeah, but Renee, it's always so great to talk to you. Tell everyone where they can find you and where they can get a astrology reading from you. And I know one that I'm going to need at the end of the year from you. So you'll be hearing from me too. I obviously will talk before then, but I do need to get
we'll do a trade. We'll do a trade because I loved your reading last time. We did a trade, and like almost everything that you said was going to happen happened. So I was like, okay, cool.
Oh, that's great.
Karen's legit.
Isn't it good having friends like this where you go, let's just do a trade?
Yeah, let's just do a trade. It really is the best. I know.
Fantastic.
So I guess people can find me, and also thank you for having me. It's wonderful to speak to you as well.
Always.
People can find me at my website, Rainbow Glitter Star. I've got spell kits, how to attract a soulmate, how to gain prosperity, health and wellness, how to do a house cleansing, crystal kits, all that sort of fun stuff. And then you can get information about the psychic readings, tarot readings, and astrology readings I offer on there. And you can book your readings through there just through the contact form. Or find me on Instagram at Rainbow Glitter Star. Just give me a shout. And then my weekly podcast, the Glittercast, you can find on all major podcasting platforms. And that Instagram is where I do my daily horoscopes. And I have really fun interviews on there with Karen. And I've had Dita Von Teese on. We talked about past lives and psychedelic mushrooms. I talked to Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, about her haunted mansion. So like, it's been a fucking cool project to work on.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, you do a great job, and you're always so interesting to listen to. So you just make your guests even better. So, all right, my dear. And someday you and I are going to do a Facebook Live.
I would love that. I would totally have so much fun with that. We should figure that out.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in. Everything is in the show notes. I forget. I should be promoting something. I know April 5th, Tommy D is coming on as the Facebook Live. I'm going to have Renee on. We're going to be doing those, I think, once a month. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Mike at Uno Rising Media. And we'll see you all next week.